Hello.
I think so.
Hi, Claire. Okay, today, I know we usually start out on a topic and go all over the place, but I want to only focus on one topic today, and even if it's a short show, that's fine. But in the description, there's an article that I wrote, and um, I was just looking at something, and this is going to be a big rabbit hole. And Claire said something that everyone else said, and I just found some interesting stuff it's just interesting to say the least. So anyway, actually, I'm starting to learn a little bit more about all this since I wrote the article, because now I'm starting to really um, investigate it. But anyway, there was this woman named Dr. Martha Welch, and she said she could help children with autism. And so basically, it was saying that there was a failure in basically attachment between the baby and the mother. And so that's what was causing autism. And to make a long story short, she just said that you have to basically force yourself onto the child and force physical contact and force eye contact with the child. And this would be done so aggressively that it would be extremely traumatizing to the child. And basically, that was kind of like the that was basically kind of the idea, was to get the child to start crying and be upset and unhappy. And the thing is that it was very based on immobilizing the child. You would basically, it's called whole, you would basically make sure you were a bigger adult, and you would you would, with us, so this happened to me. So I was involved in Dr. Martha Welch's therapy cult. And so basically, when they did it to me, what they would do is they would lay us down on the floor, and then the parents would lay on top of us. And it was very uncomfortable because it was crotch to crotch and just an odd position to be in with your parent, and just, made you feel weird and uncomfortable. And then they would wrap their arms around you and their legs around you so that you couldn't move, and it was to immobilize you. And this, is distressing enough, and having a heavy adult on top of you, and it's hard to breathe, and it's hot, and they're breathing in your face, and all this other kind of stuff. They would kind of purposely provoke you by putting, my mom used to put her finger in between my ribs to get me, really angry, and she would rub my hair like really hard until it hurt. And, she would just, do this kind of like head traumatizing stuff to me. And then, it's about, so supposedly autistic children and children who are supposedly whatever. So my brother got involved in the program because he's nonverbal autistic. And then they just
Can I
dragged
stop
me.
you here? Wasn't that treatment for your brother
It was
rather
for my
than
brother.
you?
Yes, it was for my brother who was autistic, but it also was supposed to be. It just was. It's also for like attachment based or reaction. It's for other things too. It's not just for autism. And so it's about basically controlling your children. If they're not autistic and they're just regular children, I think it's just about, I don't know, forcing them to obey or something like that. But if they have problems, it was this supposedly way to help them, and I just got inducted into the program with my brother. So anyway, and then used to have to scream into my mother's face that I hated her. And it's okay. I was just reading. We're gonna get into this because this is based on earlier therapies that were going on in the 1960s and the 1970s on rage reduction. So I want to get into that too. But anyway, this Dr. Martha Welch would have these experiments done on me and other children in her facility, or not in her facility, in her home, or a home she rented out or used in Greenwich, Connecticut. And um, so What was I saying? I am very angry and pissed and suspicious because now she is a big, big, big time child psychiatrist, molecular biologist at Columbia University, getting grants to study more stuff on autism. Um, and Claire said it too. People have told me that she's basically like a CIA psychiatrist, like studying autism and like
A
special,
behaviorist.
a behaviorist, yes. And I don't know if that's true, but I wouldn't be surprised. So her name is Dr. Martha Welch, and you can learn more about what happened to me in that link. But I've been researching her. It's called attachment therapy. You know, I went on the friggin' bitches Columbia University program, and they said, oh, other people used her therapy in child abuse, but her therapy has nothing to do with child abuse. I was there. I mean, it was child abuse what she did. So, you know, she is, and she's definitely credited. There's other people though. Um, Okay, Robert Zaslow. Let's look up here. Zaslow, rage reduction therapy from the 1960s and 1970s. Attachment therapy, autism in the 1970s. Oh, a history of holding therapy. This is in a Mormon magazine. That would be interesting. Let's just see. Hold on. Okay. Oh, this isn't long. Let me just read this. A history of holding therapy. Holding therapy traces its roots to techniques developed in the 1970s by Robert Zaslow, who believed he could treat autism by holding patients to induce rage. Yes, yes, to induce rage. That's what it's for, but it, it's a very uncomfortable form of holding. It's not like you're just holding your infant. it's it becomes abusive to a certain point when everyone knows it's abusive. It's like not even practiced anymore. He believed the process would break down defense mechanisms, making them more receptive and cooperative. A decade later, a technique called holding time was introduced. Mothers were instructed to hold defiant children tightly to cause anger, resulting in spitting, screaming, swearing, or biting. Yes, see, like, yes, like they would do it to the point that you were like, but I mean, this was coupled with psychological, like, admit that you hate your mother, admit this. It was horrible. The mothers were told to accept these behaviors calmly and silently. The children would eventually begin crying. The theory was that if the mothers could resist the temptation to feel sorry for the child would enter into an acceptance state and become relaxed and tired. Obviously, you become tired. And I do remember, yes, after going through that, I'm a little bit young. Obviously, I was tired, obviously, but there might have been a kind of relaxing, uh, like, I don't know, something, I don't know, just because trauma might, be relaxing. I don't know the mechanisms of psychology. At that point, according to the theory, the mother would loosen her hold on the child and a bonding process would begin in which the child would find comfort in the mother. In 1991, Foster Klein and colleagues at Attachment Center in Evergreen, Colorado, promoted the use of similar holding techniques with adopted, maltreated children who suffered from what was described as an attachment disorder. So okay, that was a little bit justifying that. Okay, fucking bitch, it used her name, and in that article, it didn't distinguish her from that. Yeah, she told them to hold us until kicking, spitting. But it was just uncomfortable holding. It was horrible. It felt horrible, and like it was just disgraceful. And of course, the child's gonna start kicking, biting, screaming, cursing. You know what I mean? It was horrible, and all the children would be screaming, and then afterwards, it was so creepy. There was this old bald man there, not old, but older, and they would feed us all popcorn and stuff like that. And he gave me a shark tooth once, I remember. He gave me a shark tooth. But I'm like I was looking up Martha Welch CIA and I haven't found anything. Okay, so that Robert Zaslow. Okay, who's this Tinbergen? Nicholas Nico Tinbergen was a Dutch biologist and ornithologist who shared the 1973 Nobel Prize in Physiology or Medicine with Carl von Wersch and Konrad Lorenz for their discoveries concerning the organization and elicitation of individual and social behavior patterns in animals. He's regarded as one of the foundations of modern ethology, the study of animal behavior. In 1951, he published Study of Instinct, an influential book on animal behavior. In the 1960s, he collaborated with filmmaker Hugh Falkus on a series of wildlife, including The Riddle of the Rook and The Signals for Survival, which won the Italian prize in that year and the American Blue Ribbon in 1971. So, hold on. So this was started in animal behavior. Oh, autism. Okay. Okay. Autism. Tim Bergen applied his observational methods to the problems of autistic children. He recommended a holding therapy in which parents would hold their autistic children for long periods of time while attempting to reestablish eye contact, even when a child resists the embrace. However, his interpretations of autistic behavior and the holding therapy that he recommended lack scientific support, and the therapy has been described as controversial and potentially abusive, particularly by individuals with autism themselves. Yes, it's just, it was just, okay, this is, I like this. This is at least vindicating. Um, well, I don't, what do you think about it, Claire? Claire, you're on mute.
In what do you want me to say about it? What do you mean about her? About her methodology?
Yeah, about her and her methodology and like basically her, yeah, like basically this whole program, you know what I mean? Like, okay, even what they wrote there was kind of a euthanasia of what was really going on because
Sorry, a what? A what?
like
Or what was a
it was
euphemism? A
a
euphemism. Yes.
euphemism. Yeah, it was like a euphemism of what was really going on. I mean, it was like they dampened um
Okay.
they
They understate the trauma it caused you,
yes.
and it seems like the methodology was to traumatize the child and then comfort the child in order to generate the emotions needed for the child to feel emotional about the parent.
Hold on
To,
one second. Hold on one second.
Hmm.
Hello?
Yes.
Um
Uh,
yeah, I don't, this is like it was okay, I could understand a little bit about autism if you did this slightly. If you I could understand coming to this kind of conclusion, but I think there's a threshold to it. Um but it's extremely traumatizing to autistics to do this to them.
yes, of course, but it's supposed to cure autism and make the child attached to the parent. Yes, that's what it's supposed to do. Have I got that right?
Yeah, somehow. Well, wouldn't this detach you from the parent?
Well, okay. So my idea would be that if you traumatize the child will remember the experience and it will remember the presence of the parent and how the parent, you know, in the end was nice to them and, gave them treats and whatever. So the trauma would be associated with relief, and the relief come from an authority figure, and this will induce some sort of emotion in the child that will cause the child either to fear or to love and fear their parent. Does that make sense?
Yes, but I don't know how it would induce love. Actually, there's a whole long Wikipedia article on attachment therapy.
Okay, well, you can read that, but I mean, fear and love is in a way, um, linked. I mean, if you think of the Bible, the beginning of wisdom is fear of the Lord, and love God with all your heart. And I suppose if you look at it in this way, you fear that um, the object of your love, in case the object says, "No, thank you, I don't want your love anymore. Goodbye." So even though we think love, it is not nothing to do with fear, there is actually the in the background there is this fear of no longer being allowed to love the love object. So they're all linked. I mean, all these intense emotions are linked. Love and hate, love and fear, hate and fear. They all kind of mix up. But what it does is engender very strong emotions and create memories that will have some authority figure in the story, and thereby cause some sort of attachment. I think that's how it's supposed to work. Of course, it's very cruel and very experimental, but there are lots of quacks around. You know, exorcism. I mean, what's it all about? And you listen to some of the pastors in Africa, the way they carry on when they accuse a child of being a witch. What's that all about? I mean, at the worst, they're going to kill the kid for being a witch because the parent wants some sort of excuse to get rid of it. Or maybe it's just a kind of letting the kid know that it can't get away with its behavior. I mean, we don't know, but
Oh
it's
my God, this must be me. Some studies are still being undertaken on coercive therapies. A non-randomized before and after 2006 pilot study by Welch, the progenitor of holding time, etc., and all on Welch's prolonged parent-child embrace therapy was conducted on children with a range of diagnoses for behavioral disorders and claimed to show significant improvement. Hold on. Okay, I'm gonna. Anyway, yeah, it is quite experimental, and the thing is that there's something about autism that makes parents react very negatively because parental autistic organizations are like there's something about autism that is particularly disturbing to the parents, and obviously your child has a diagnosis of autism and it doesn't like being held by you. Um, that desire to have parental like control to the point, okay, the child does not desire to be held by you. I mean, I understand, like, let's say you're transporting the child and you have to do it and there's just nothing you can do about it. And, well, if it doesn't want to be held, just generally you know, don't, don't hold it. There's something not right with it and it doesn't want to be held. And I think anyone should know that enforcing that kind of level of holding on a child will make it less likely to want to be around you. Don't children naturally embrace their mothers?
Well, yes, and I suppose, the child, I mean, the parent would be a bit offended, if the child didn't want to be ever touched, and.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like offended. Like
Well,
how?
yes, because, they have a child that doesn't love them. So, maybe they can't get over that, and that's why they will seek, um, extreme measures to make the child love them. I mean, it sounds a bit like, I don't know, circus training. You get the animal to somehow do the trick that you want it to do by punishment and reward.
Well, I mean, yes, and the thing is that yes, I think that there is like this just level of like, how dare you reject me, to the point that, I mean, okay, to a degree, I can understand maybe holding the infant in degrees. There's degrees to it, but when you just totally immobilize it and lay on top of it and, just totally, uh, and then make it admit when it can talk to hating its mother and hating this and wanting to do that and wanting to hurt someone. Oh, and being jealous. You're jealous of your brother, I remember.
Yeah, it is sick to force people to say things they don't necessarily believe. It's really very,
Yeah, no,
it violates you know, violates the mind of the person, being forced to say something they don't believe. But I suppose you could say these methods are to, show the victim who's boss. You don't have to like it, you just do it, and then you'll get your reward. So do it. I mean,
mm,
she is a behaviorist, isn't she?
yeah,
Yeah, I mean, the I mean, I don't think the Chinese realize it, or maybe they already do, but the two kinds, I mean, legalism, you probably haven't heard of that, but I mean, it's always in opposition to Confucianism. So Confucius says to the monarch, and say, you just have to be, a good person, and then all people will love you and they will please you and be afraid to upset you. And that's all you have to do. You just have to be a good person. And the legalists say, no, you have to punish them and reward them and, find ways of using the law to make them do what you want. So, Chinese history has, always been about, trying to work out which to do or which combination to do, and in the end they crashed and burnt. But I mean, what's left is just a Confucian ethics. But I mean, I think in the West you would have this so-called debate between natural law and positive law. Have you heard of that?
no,
So it's a positive law is basically man-made law, and natural law is, they don't explicitly say it, God's laws, with the idea that for people who believe in God, then, they would want to obey God's laws in order to get to heaven and to please God. And if you put it to people that these are God's laws, then they're more likely to keep obeying it from generation to generation. And the argument is, if people know it's just the law that your ruling classes make, and you don't particularly like your ruling classes, then you're not going to be obeying them. You might even rebel against them, or pretend to obey them, or avoid them, or in some way get around them. So, I mean, the problem with government is getting people to do what you want them to do, to obey the letter of the law. So, so I guess, people have always been arguing about, what to do for the best. But I mean, in terms of behaviorism, it is about nudging people or enticing people, the carrot and the stick and that sort of idea.
Listen to this. HT exists in two distinct forms. One, sometimes referred to as attachment therapy, or by other terms involving uncomfortable physical restraint by several therapists or by parents, and employs adjuvant methods such as limitation of diet and toilet use. This method has been associated with a number of child deaths. I remember, well, one was suicide. I remember that one clinic got shut down for a suicide. It was once used for treatment of autism, but more recently is generally used as a treatment for reactive attachment disorder. The second holding therapy form is carried out by parents with the coaching of therapists and employs a face-to-face restraint of children by parents, either with small children on the parent's lap or with the parent lying prone on a supine older child. What is prone on a supine older child?
Um, Prone is um, lying on your stomach, and supine is lying on your back. Let me check though.
Yes,
It's one or
prone.
the other.
Yeah, lying prone on a supine older child. That's what happened to me. This method was called holding time WP, as is based on the technique of Martha Welch. Uh, it does not appear to have been associated with adjuvant methods or with child death. What does adjuvant mean? Adjuvant. Applied after initial treatment of cancer, especially to suppress secondary tumor. Of therapy, a substance that enhances the body's immune response to an antigen. Oh, so in the article, you'll be able to find my email in the About Me section. If you are also a victim of Dr. Mouse Welch, contact me, vincent.bruno.1229 at gmail.com. I sent a letter to Columbia University. I sent that blog post, and I said the bitch doesn't deserve what she has. So, yeah, let her know. Are you there, Claire?
Yes, yes,
Oh,
I am. Can you hear me? Yes, yes, I think you can. Well, I didn't know what I was expected to say to that. Was there a question?
no, no, no. Um. So let's talk about
Well, let's talk about behaviorism. Why don't we introduce the idea so people understand what it's supposed to achieve?
okay, behaviorism.
Hmm.
Behaviorism is a worldview that assumes a learner is essentially passive, responding to environmental stimuli. The theory suggests that psychology should be the science of observational behavior rather than focusing on what goes on inside the mind. I don't know what that means. Disgusting. Um,
What did you say? Sorry, what's disgusting? I'm afraid I didn't.
Nothing. Behaviorism is a systematic approach to understand the behavior of humans and other animals that assumes that behavior is either a reflex evoked by the pairing of certain antecedent stimuli in the environment or a consequence of that individual's history, including especially reinforcement and punishment contingencies, together with the individual's current motivational state and controlling stimuli. Although behavior is generally accepted the important role of heredity in determining behavior, they focus primarily on environmental events. The cognitive revolution of the late 20th century largely replaced behaviorism as an explanatory theory with cognitive psychology, which, unlike behaviorism, examines internal mental states.
Well, it's to understand the motivations of the subject and, say that, create the appropriate stick and carrot to motivate the subject, yes? It's like dog training, basically. I mean, if you look up dog training, I'm sure you'll find similar principles. Maybe look up dog training.
Yeah, but behaviorism emerged in the early 1900s as a reaction to depth psychology and other traditional forms of psychology, which often have difficulty making predictions that could be tested experimentally, but derived from either research in the late 19th century, such as when Edward Thorndike pioneered the law of effect, a procedure that involved the use of consequences to strengthen or weaken behavior. Consequences, law of effect, consequences. I mean, a lot of this is just obvious. Psychology. Branches of behaviorism: behavioral genetics, interbehaviorism, methodological behaviorism, psychological behaviorism, radical behaviorism, tele, teleological behaviorism, theoretical behaviorism, Julian and post-Julian theoretical group data, not dynamic psychology. There's a lot to go through here.
Okay, but we get the idea that behaviorism was what was being practiced on you and your brother.
Uh, okay, I'm gonna cede the territory there and say yes because you're sure of it. And
Look up dog training. I mean, just read a few principles. It won't be that difficult. I mean, I haven't looked, but I'm sure the principles are the same. Or circuses training wild animals. There will be, a
dog
lot of
training,
behaviorism there.
recall, sit, healing, stay, socializing. Dogs have been trained to perform large. Okay, dog training is the act of teaching a dog particular skills or behavior. Dog training includes teaching a dog to react to particular commands and cues, as well as to act independently by deliberately changing their natural behavior. I don't know what was going on.
What do you mean? How do you train
History.
your dog?
What?
Sorry, carry on, carry on.
I never trained a dog, no.
But you kind of need to boss them around, yes? I mean, of course you do. And of course there is punishment. And one of the things I remember is that the punishment must, the punishment and reward, it must be, almost instantaneous. So, I mean, it's sort of like saying, well, there's no point punishing your dog, the day after it did the wrong thing, because it'll have no idea why you're punishing it. So if you're going to punish your dog, make sure you do it immediately, or you're just wasting your time and energy, and your dog will just be, hurt and puzzled. And the same with reward. I've seen, seals being rewarded with buckets of fish. You do this trick, I'll give you a fish, and another one, another fish.
Yeah.
So when they believe they're going to be rewarded, they'll do the thing. And this is the whole thing about believing in God. It's like, yes, most people cannot restrain themselves from doing what is irresistible at the time. And if we all think like that, we will behave like animals. We just wouldn't be able to, stop ourselves from having sex just because we, see somebody we fancy and, behave in a really embarrassing way. And so we kind of are told, look, don't do this, because if you do this and everybody sees you, they'll laugh at you and your life will be terrible. So kind of hold back. Oh, here's this thing we can teach you, like manners and conventions and rules of behavior. And then, eventually it will be the afterlife. And before that would be the law. So really, all these secular political ideologies as well as religions are about regulating our behavior. I mean, which is what this woman was trying to do to you and your brother. They wanted you to be more affectionate towards your parents, to be more obedient and more, loving and that sort of thing. Yes, they kind of took you to training school.
Yes, well,
Well, they should have done it themselves, but obviously, your brother was a bit of a challenge, and maybe they just brought you along because they couldn't be bothered to arrange the babysitting. And probably this woman said, the more the merrier. Just bring all your children around, along so I can experiment on all of them. Yeah,
how do
yeah.
you
It's
think
like,
you
oh,
got?
we have 5 children. It's like, bring them all, bring them all.
So what do you think? What do you think
Well, I'm
got
glad
her?
you can laugh about it, but
Actually,
yeah,
she has
I
a
mean,
wiki.
the reasons could be as banal as that.
Martha Welch has a Wikipedia page, which is linked in the link below. Um, First of all, she is the descendant of the Welch's grape juice um, company founders. So
Okay, I don't know. Okay, it's not a brand that I'm familiar with, but
in America,
oh,
it's pretty big. Welch's grape
okay.
juice, and
Mhm.
she is now professor of psychiatry and pediatrics and in pathology and cell biology at Columbia University Irving Medical Center. I wonder if we were her special experiments that she was like more because she had a holding therapy center in New York, and people were like, "Oh, it's so wonderful." But anyway, she made it big. Do you think anyone gets
Mhm.
these big positions without clearance?
Well, I mean, she's already, quite privileged already, so, I think a lot of things must have been easy for her. People kind of gave her a pass because, her daddy was so rich and famous, yes. I mean, but in a way, it's kind of it's kind of like voodoo, isn't it? I mean, a lot of the stuff that you hear witch doctors do, you think, yeah, it probably makes a kind of psychological sense to do it this way to, you know, um, induce fear or calm them down or, all kinds of, psychological tricks that would actually come with priesthood. Even the sort of being drugged thing. There's this um well, the Delphi, the oracles of Delphi. It's like, yeah, there's this woman and she goes into a trance and she's probably quite attractive and then she says stuff and people come from near and far to go and listen to her. And, whatever she says, it could be so vague, but but the clever priest will be able to make it fit whatever situation that they want it to fit. You know, the Romans had this thing called auguries, which is just looking at birds and saying, "Ooh, the birds say the battle is going to be successful," or whatever. There's all kinds of shit to, make something that is in fact nonsensical make sense, like, oh, ink blots and tea leaves and, tarot cards. People love it. People love the mumbo jumbo.
Well, anyway, I think she's like a creep.
Well, probably. I mean, sure. These ideas are psychological experiments. I mean, what do you think of the Milgram experiment of the Milgram experiment? Hmm?
What's the Milgram experiment?
Oh well, I'm sure
Oh, wait,
you'll.
the series, hold on. Conducted by Yale University, who invented to measure the willingness of study participants to obey an authority figure who instructed them to perform acts conflicting with their personal conscience. Yes, and then he was going to be hurting people, and yeah, I remember this, the Milgram experiment. Oh my god, that's a horrible experiment. The fact that people are willing to do these things.
Well, these are called psychological experiments. I mean, there are all kinds of them. I mean, some of them are quite useful, I suppose, to gauge behavior. I mean, one of the more interesting ones is that there is a situation where, the one with the smoke coming from under the room, under the door situation. So, somebody, the subject of the experiment is invited to, come for an appointment, and there are all these people in the waiting room, waiting, and smoke is coming out from under the door. And but the actors who are playing the other people in the waiting room would be calm, and they wouldn't react, and the person would think, "Oh my God, there's smoke coming out from this is terrible. I need to," but he sees all the other people calmly turning the pages of their magazine or playing with their phone or whatever, and in the end he sits down because he doesn't want to seem a bit weird or reacting in a way that is not in keeping with the majority. I mean, that's useful. And then there was this famous case of there was this woman. She's got some weird name. I think it was in the 70s, and basically she was screaming for help. This was in New York City, and everybody ignored her, and she was raped and murdered, or anyway, she was killed,
That's
and nobody
right.
came
The
to.
the
Yeah, because
actor.
everybody thought somebody would be doing it. Somebody else would be going to this woman's rescue. And so, one of the things that might be useful for people calling for help is that you address the person that you want help from, like, please help me, you gentleman in the red hat and the leather jacket, so that that at least they go, because if you go, help, help, people think, well, they can't mean me. So, and then this, I guess next day, help, I'm being killed, I'm being raped, I'm being robbed, something. So they know what it's about. But help is not enough. And when you think of, well, I guess when military uh, military organization was at its most primitive, it's kind of it's very hard to give orders in the fog of war and tell all these different men what to do because maybe it's happened to you, but sometimes you're cooking stuff in the kitchen. You have guests over, they come in, offer to help you in the kitchen, and in the end, the person, the cook says, no, it's just easier if I do it because it's just overloading my mind if I sit down and try to work out what you could do to help. It just takes up too much brain power to even give you the instructions, so it's easier if I do it myself. Do you ever get that?
Yeah. Do I ever get what? Do you ever get what? Say one more time.
Do you get people, or I mean, do you offer to help in somebody's kitchen when you're invited to dinner?
Yes, yeah, and it's just too much for them, and they'd rather you not help them.
Because most of the time they can't even formulate the instructions to give you,
Yeah,
unless it's really, really simple.
yeah,
So, and I'm just saying the situation would be even worse in war. Because I'm sure a lot of the men wouldn't be particularly educated, and you know, uh, they need very, very few words, and of course they need to be drilled so they know the form and they can do it in their sleep. Or whatever. I mean, I mean, not that I know anything, what these orders are, but it would be to advance, to retreat, to, you know, you know, don't shoot until you see the whites of their eyes, or whatever it is. I'm trying to say it's all about communicating in words in sufficiently uh, in a sufficiently brief way so that it is easily passed on and understood. And also, all these sort of grammatical things, like you have to address the person, because people think, well, I didn't know you were talking to me. So in language, you have the what, first person singular, the first person plural, second person singular, second person plural, and yeah, and people kind of need to know that you're talking to them. Like Americans have this sort of cute, way of saying y'all, meaning, well, I'm talking to all of you as a group, not just you, which the English don't have. But I think it's grammatically very useful.
yeah, 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 y'all, and yeah, they actually say that American English is easier, or more. I don't know. Is actually not. I'm not looking for the word better than British English, but
It has its purpose, is what I'm trying to say. I mean, you can see why people might want to say, y'all rather than you.
mm,
And this thing of you guys, which is obviously informal, but maybe that started the gender confusion, because there'd be girls in this group attached, called you guys, and now girls are called dudes. I kind of object to that. But then the British do the same things. I get they call each other mate, and I guess they think they're being egalitarian. But maybe a woman of my age might object to being called mate by a much younger man. But then this is all to do, and that's why people get so hot under the collar about their pronouns. And then people get, oh, but I don't know what to call you. You seem to be a man to me. So, it's, oh no, but I identify as a woman. You know. So obviously, all these things are popping up in a almost uncontrolled way about, people wanting their identity accepted. But you see, all these things such as, um, what you're called, like, young man, sir, or, miss, madam, whatever. It has to be age appropriate and certainly gender appropriate. And now that we have lost the ability to use it correctly or insist on, the conventions that, you know, um, that or we have failed to preserve the conventions that made these rules clear to most people. Then I mean, then people just get upset with each other the whole time. Not being addressed correctly, not people not respecting our pronouns, asking for our pronouns when it's already obvious. It just creates unnecessary division, and we wonder if it's intended.
It's both. It's the natural evolution, and also, it's the natural evolution of just making the wrong decision to oppress women and gay people, and then they go overboard, or they think about these things very deeply now, maybe in ways that they wouldn't have, or now they organize in ways that they wouldn't have, and they're defensive, and every little slight, you know what I mean? But it's just, making a deal out of every little thing. Um,
Yeah, and this causes us, our society to atomize and fall apart and not be able to solve its problems, using obvious ways of solving solutions. Because we don't have a leader anymore. America doesn't, Americans don't
well,
think
do you think
Biden is
Trump's
their
gonna get
leader.
in? Do you think Trump's gonna get in?
Well, he'd be better than whoever. I mean, who else do okay, you guys may complain that, Trump isn't good enough. People in Europe don't even have their own version of Trump. So consider yourselves lucky that you've got
Well, they've got
somebody.
Wilders.
Well, I don't think he's doing anything much.
Can you hold on 1 second?
Mhm.
Hello.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. Just yeah. I don't know if he's going. Well, we were talking. You think he's going to win?
Well, I hope so. I hope, the deep state isn't going to kill him, because then, I think it will descend into civil war. I mean, I'm surprised it hasn't done it now, because, you know, if you steal if you steal, I guess the reason why they're so anxious to shut people up when they, complain about stealing the election is that, um, you know, they anticipate these behaviorists, I think, anticipated that if people thought that the election was stolen, then they would conclude, if they were smart, that there is no point fighting any further elections, and they take the law into their own hands. So I think that was the reason why YouTube and Facebook and all the big social media platforms just wouldn't allow you to complain about the election being stolen. But after the midterm elections, it's like, yeah, they're not gonna, they'll, it's safe now. So now it's okay to talk about this election being stolen. I think there's something to do. Yeah, that's something to do with it. Time passing and people not, being so angry anymore, and there's the next election to steal or vote for or whatever. Yeah, okay. I think it would be terrible not to reward Trump because, whatever you think of him, he's not doing it for fun, is he? Do you think he is? It must be because he can't stand it anymore.
Yeah, I mean, I guess there's a lot of people that can't stand it anymore, but um, I was thinking that today about, they said that Trump was the Europeanization of American politics, and this right, it's like it's pathetic that they can only rally behind when the strong man shows up that's gonna whip them all in shape. And I don't want my movement to be like that. I want my movement to be something more leftist, where anyone can do it, where just like, where it's kind of like the authority to actually enact these things is decentralized a little bit.
Right. Could I stop you for a moment? You said Trump represents the what, Europeanization?
Yes,
Did you say that? What
Europeanized.
did you mean?
Well, like kind of like, well, I guess Ronald Reagan kind of did the same thing with the right, where it was like this kind of like, oh, well, I think when they wrote that, I was quoting someone, but I think they were more talking about his Muslim ban and like, I don't know, anti Semitism or something like that. They were just saying that Trump was Europeanizing American politics.
I don't see how it's European. That's what I don't understand.
Well, I kind of take that back. I don't know why he said that, and um,
Okay. But I think it's only when a strong man comes up that people think, oh, I might win after all, because there's a strong man prepared to do what it takes to get things done. And that's why people get so excited when they think they see a strong man. But and without a strong man, they'll just think, oh, there's no point doing anything. They're going to beat us. They're going to jail us. They're going to, and they become apathetic. One of the most um, memorable things that said about Trump, was American voters saying, well, I haven't even bothered to register to vote for 20 years until he came along and said what he did to show that he really cared or really understood the things that we were worried about. Um, and That's why they voted for him. And the thing is, that they're all, I mean, the ones who support him are totally committed.
Claire, I have to go. So
Okay,
it was nice talking.
all right. Thank
All
you
right,
for inviting me.
yeah,
Bye
bye.
bye.